the point we first see her, she's now, having been a big movie actress, award-winning actress, is now seems to have a very credible career doing Keep Fit videos, which, you know, that's what Cher did in the 90s or the late 80s and 90s.
It's got to come back to Cher, isn't it, always?
Yeah, all roads lead to Cher. The sooner everyone gets used to
shoehorned in that Cher reference,
the sooner people will understand the world.
Does the substance live up to its hype? That is the big question I think a lot of people are asking. It was a big hit at Cannes and at TIFF, and now it's been released in the UK, I think in the States as well this weekend. Can I just quickly say before I introduce everybody, thank you to Organic.
Yeah.
Oh,
for this
amazing.
Fabulous t-shirt. We're going to give one away as well. We've got a little goodie box to give away. We'll do that on the socials. So head over to Instagram and you'll find us there at London Boys, LDN Boys. But yeah, let's say hello to everybody. Let's go to Paul first of all, who's just there. This is Brady Bunch style. Everyone will know Paul. And we got Dan from Nancy Boys, who's been a guest on this show quite a lot, and also Chris from Nancy Boys, who's a first timer. Welcome in, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
So guys, what a great night. We went to Battersea Power Station Cinema, and there was a multimedia screening, very, very kindly invited by Mubi. Thank you, Mubi, for giving us a chance to check this out before it hit the cinema screens. Movie starring Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley and Dennis Quaid. It's a new body horror from French filmmaker Coralie Fargeat. Written and directed by her. Have any of you guys seen her previous film? I think it came out about 5-6 years ago, called Revenge.
Yeah, I saw it. It was 2017 it was, so I didn't realise it was that long ago. But when I think about it, in many ways, very, very similar. Like very, very punchy, very, very gory, and just like constant action. So, she's kind of like my new Ari Aster, and I want to see what she's going to come up with.
Yeah, no, she's very stylized. I mean, her work is very stylized. It's not too stylized, though, because I think she's got that grittiness, but it's very attractive to look at on the big screen, especially. So this film is all about Elizabeth Sparkle. First of all, can we just say fabulous name? She's renowned as being an aerobics show instructor on TV. She got a big show. She has a devastating blow on her 50th birthday as her boss Harvey, who's played by Dennis Quaid, fires her. He's a bit of a nasty piece of work. So she's very distressed. Obviously, she would be. A laboratory offers her a cell-replicating substance which promises to transform her into a younger, enhanced version of herself. Step forward, Sue. Got to say it like this. Sue. It's played by Margaret Qualley. Great story, though, guys, don't you think, first of all? It's interesting.
Yeah, almost quite simple in a way. And actually never really got much further than that. It was more than about how that materialised that I thought was the intriguing bit. So lovely to be able to actually follow it. I have terrible brain fog sometimes with films. There's too much plot, and I'm like, great, I get what's going on here. So
yeah, it's a bit Black Mirror. I mean, we think about the story, it's a bit Black Mirror, but I think it's a lot better than Black Mirror, to be honest.
I mean, and structurally, it's just that kind of almost like fairy tale, grim tale type thing of you're offered something in return of something, and what are the consequences of that? Obviously, the focus is to do with like youth and aging, but you know, that sort of searching for the fountain of youth type thing, it's along those lines.
Snow White, Sleeping Beauty type.
Which I think definitely, that sort of fairy tale thing gets referenced a bit. There's definitely some sort of haggy type moments in it, and even sort of Hansel and Gretel and some of that sort of stuff, amongst the many, many different things that happen and things that are referenced and smart stuff that's going on.
Very strong satire. I mean, there's a lot of very powerful messages, a lot of important messages, but that's not to say that it's a film that's preachy, because I think, you know, when you scratch away at the surface, I think there's a lot there to think about, but it's also very entertaining. I mean, you have got the ageism, you've got the misogyny, you've got the way that the entertainment industry treats older people, especially women, and how awful men can be. I mean, Dennis Quaid, his character, is just repugnant. I mean, in capital letters, because he's just gross. He's like really greasy, and there's a scene where he's chatting to Demi Moore's character over dinner, and he's having shrimp, and it's full of mayonnaise, and it's and he's just shoving it in his face.
And also a kind of close up, sort of, well, not close up in the wrong way, but like a urinal whilst he just stumbles in off his face and has a piss and stuff. And
Yeah.
I think it's important, because obviously this film's made by a woman, which is great. If it'd been made by a man, that would be a bit weird. But it's really great that from an audience perspective, very early on, the lead character we look at and we think, wow, she looks amazing, she's fantastic, whatever. And then you get this guy who, as you say, dripping with sweat and just so unattractive.
And chain smoking. I mean, he's got yellow teeth and it just looks awful.
Making no effort whatsoever with his appearance, and yet he's telling her that because of her age, she's not appropriate anymore. Exactly. And it's her who's the one who then has to look closely at herself in the mirror, and leads her into a thought process that moves to some quite drastic action, which, as I said when we were leaving, there's thousands of women who look amazing who will be looking in the mirror and seeing the tiniest flaw and thinking, oh, that's something I need to change. What have people noticed? So this is just a kind of mega amplification of that. I mean, a very big amplification of that is a very extreme piece of filmmaking. Yeah, it's rooted in a kind of quite a sad reality, really, isn't it? And as much as there was bits where we were squirming and kind of giggling because of the gore, as you said, it still always comes back to a very sad situation for this person.
Yeah, it is fundamentally very sad. I mean, particularly the final act, which we'll come on to. And obviously, we can't talk about too much because it's very spoilery. Because I think, like somebody said, I can't remember who it was, it might have been the intro, actually, the guy that was introducing it from Mubi. He said, it's best to go in not knowing much about it, which I completely agree with. But Chris, you were sat to my right and you were laughing quite a lot throughout this. I mean, we were all laughing, but you were obviously sat just next to me and you seemed to be enjoying it.
I think a lot of that was a nervous laughter reaction. Like, you're laughing, you're thinking, why am I laughing? This is horrific, or this is like grotesque. But there was one particular scene, again, I don't want to give any spoilers away, where it's kind of, you're kind of looking at this thing that's kind of so gross and you're kind of laughing out of anxiety. But then this sadness comes over you because it just keeps going on and on. The relentingness of this particular scene, it just builds up on it. And I found that happened a few times in the film. But it really does reflect that, as you were saying, Paul, that double standard of how it is one way for men in the industry and another way for women. It kind of takes you on that journey from Elizabeth Sparkle's perspective. It kind of makes you feel every emotion that she's going through, kind of through the high and then ultimately the low of it all. It was very powerful. But the laughter definitely, I think 80% of that was nervous laughter rather than true.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. Because, I mean, there are some funny scenes, but like you say, there's quite a depth there to the situation. Can I just say the cast, I don't know what you thought, but I thought the cast were terrific. Demi Moore is just fabulous in this role. And I think she does hold this film. But although, saying that, Margaret Qualley again and Dennis Quaid, great for different reasons, I think. But Demi Moore, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realise she hasn't done a film since 2009. So this is like 15 years of hiatus. I thought she looked amazing. And I agree with Paul, actually. I think that was... I liked that actually we could all recognise from the start that she was stunning and brilliant at her job and really successful, and there's the inherent unfairness around that. I really hope this film is a bit of a force for good and that people see that and be able to sort of recognise it. But yeah, I thought she was great, and credit to her. She's playing a 50-year-old and she's like 61 now. So
you can really feel for her. I mean, I can't to that extreme because obviously I'm a man, but I can really empathise with her situation, as I'm sure, a lot of other women have gone through something very similar. Obviously, it's very extreme in some ways, so a lot of women wouldn't have happened as it does in this film, but obviously that's kind of like the horror fantasy.
Yeah. And it's rooted in Hollywood, and it has a brilliant opening sequence where they managed to show the birth, highlight, and then decline of her career just over a shot of her Hollywood Walk of Fame star being installed, which is a real nice little bookend to the film as well. But then, the point we first see her, she's now, having been a big movie actress, award-winning actress, is now seems to have a very credible career doing Keep Fit videos, which, that's what Cher did in the 90s or the late 80s and 90s.
It's got to come back to Cher, isn't it, always?
Yeah, all roads lead to Cher. The sooner everyone gets used
shoehorned in that Cher reference,
the sooner people will understand the world. But it's a bit like if you think about the TV show Hacks, which has a the character there is a kind of thinly veiled version of Joan Rivers, I guess. It's this
brilliant.
sort of like women, you know, they're very successful, and then people don't know what to do with them, so they move into a sideline of cable TV, exercise show, or QVC shopping channels and all that kind of stuff. And what's really grotesque about this is that then she's then deemed too old for that, and it's like she's clearly not. It's just horrible. And I mean, obviously, the other thing is the film really relishes almost to quite. It's funny what you were saying, Chris, about how it the gore just seemed to be sustained. Like normally, it's just, you see things in movies and the horror's like quick splat, whereas this is like. But I think because it's so much focused on bodies and what we think about, and that we will casually say, you know, in the media, oh, they need a nose job, they need this doing, oh, whatever, you know, oh my God, they look awful. But actually, when you're in this, when you're sort of subjected to the really visceral sounds of squelching and body parts being moved and mutating and all sorts of different things, it's like really, but it's almost a bit like, you imagine filmmakers saying, well, that's what you asked for. It's not all like, you know, you don't just suddenly see someone on the cover of a magazine 2 weeks or 2 months after they've been not seen, and then they suddenly look amazing. Like something's happened there. There's something gross going on with surgery and knives and all that. And we just pretend we don't know about it. And we only mention it if someone's got bad work done. We don't really say, wow, their work's really good.
That was going to be my next big tick, because I think the sound design and the special effects, the makeup, are just off the scale. I mean, the sound especially, I mean, it's beautifully shot. It's in itself as a film to look at, but it's so important, those parts of the film, I think.
And practical by the looks of things as well. I didn't see a lot of, or if any, CGI. That looked like it was all made organically. Like everything looked like you could see and touch it, which made it so much worse. Because like injury, which I think I could almost smell. Like it was just
No, it is very sensory, isn't it? And I think every shot has got something to offer as well, because everything is close up. It's almost macro in a way, isn't it? Because everything is so close, which I guess suits the topic of the story, because the story is all about looks, isn't it? So you're getting really up close to these bodies.
It felt like a novel to me. See it in panels, like it could be happening like a comic, and that's kind of how it felt. And I think I said like that kind of made it work for me, because it made it more fantastical. And then I'm normally a bit of a stickler for like that wouldn't happen in real life, because I'm a pedant, and I just didn't have to care with this one, because it was so positioning itself as this is madness, and just
and I think that the close-up stuff is interesting, because I wasn't till later that I was reflecting on it, that actually a lot of the time Demi Moore or Sue, the character, are on their own. There's so many scenes where it's someone kind of on their own, but a lot is happening. And what's really sad is that the Elizabeth Sparkle, there's nobody. There's all this. I mean, when you see the film, you'll see all this crazy stuff going on, and you imagine what it'd be like if you knocked on a door and walked into her apartment. But there's nobody in her life. But so it's interesting that there's not a huge amount of scenes where there's one person talking to another. There might be scenes where there's two bodies in the same room who are alive, but they're not necessarily communicating with each other. So I think the close-ups work for that really well.
You just knew she was lonely for the way it played out. There was no clunky exposition about the fact that she wasn't married or didn't have a partner. You didn't hear about any family at all, but it wasn't ever referenced. And I got home last night and thought, oh yeah, she literally had no one in her life except work and that guy from school that tries to take her out. Spoilers.
This is kind of how it is when you're kind of picking apart your own self, when you're looking at your appearance, looking at the way you present yourself. It is a very insular thing. You kind of do it on your own. You look at yourself in the mirror close up. So it kind of really made you feel that you're kind of thinking about yourself, almost watching this, like looking at yourself and picking every part of yourself that you want to change or manipulate.
Yeah, because a lesser film would have had a character saying, "Oh no, you're beautiful, you're lovely as you are," and it's like no one needed to say that, because it spoke for us.
It's incredible. When you think that this film is 2 hours, 20 minutes, we went in thinking, because we had our drinks, and I jokingly said, oh, we've got a bit of booze to keep us going, because it's quite a long film. But actually, it flew by. I wasn't even aware that it had been 2 hours, 20 minutes, to be honest.
I was going to say that the film did not talk about.
No, it really doesn't.
The way it established the storyline was done so efficiently but so well that you didn't, like we were 15 minutes in and it's like, okay, well that's happened. And now we just watch the next thing and the next escalation. And there was always a new thing to kind of look forward to in a weird way.
Yeah. Did this film remind you of anything? I think it's very unique and very original, but it did remind me of Titan a little bit, because obviously that's another body horror as well. It's a little bit of Cronenberg in there, which I guess is the obvious reference. But I think it really is unique, though. I think she's certainly got a style of her own.
Yeah, I would. There was an element of this sort of the seduction of buying something or having something reminded me a little bit of In Fabric.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously there were a couple of big horror movie visual references. So The Shining, there was a few things
and
that
Carrie.
reference The Shining, and then there was Carrie at the end.
I mean, again, I'm not going to give spoilers, but there's that whole like desperation to fix something, and it just escalates. It gets worse. That was the end of The Fly for me. That last 20 minutes.
Yeah. Let's quickly talk about the gore. Chris, are you a fan of really gore horror films? I mean, because I know that you love horror, but especially
I do.
gore. Excellent.
I do enjoy it. I think I enjoy it even more when there's a considerable amount of plot behind it. Sometimes you get scenes which are just like all out kind of blood fest, and it's fun in the moment. But I think this film did it really well in that there was so much behind it all. Like it wasn't just gory for the sake of being gory.
Not gratuitous. Yeah, exactly. There was a meaning to it. Yeah.
To bring you into that kind of insanity of what's really happening. So I was a fan, and I appreciate that they gave everyone those little gloves when you went in.
Yeah, we love the rubber gloves. I mean, it was violent, and there was one scene especially that was really violent and also tinged with a lot of sadness. And the way it's done is so. I've got goosebumps now thinking about it, and I watched the trailer this morning, and it all came back to me, and I got those feelings again, those feelings of, I don't know, just kind of sadness, but also excitement, because I think it's a very thrilling film.
It's funny, actually, that was, we review a lot of films, right? We see a lot of films, and I've seen a lot of films where I'm like, that was fine, that was like a 7. And it makes actually reviewing films really hard when you find a really good one, because I'm like, well, it's 10 plus. But the mark for me is I've thought about it this morning, and that very rarely happens. I will see a film, and normally it's like, that's done, on to the next one. Whereas on my walk back from Chris's this morning, I'm like going through that film again and remembering critical bits.
Yeah,
so
very memorable. Yeah. So the final verdict then, guys, it's a star rating. I know you do it a little bit differently on Nancy Boys. I think you do marks out of 10, don't you, on Nancy Boys?
And with halves, which is controversial.
Oh, we don't do halves here.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm always telling Phil off for doing halves on this, and I'm like, then that basically 7 out of 10 if he says 3.5. But you can't then do like 7.5 out of 10.
It pushes you, doesn't it? It makes you, a bit more regimented.
I gave Sleep Illegal 7.5 out of 10 because I'm like, yeah, it's kind of better than normal, but not quite an 8.
Round it up.
Right, we'll go to you, Paul, first. Over to you, Paul, for your star rating.
Well, no half stars here, because I am going to go 5 stars.
A full 5, fabulous.
Like the amazing band from the 80s. 5 stars.
What about you, Dan?
Come rain or shine, I will give this film 5 stars.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 5. I think it's a modern classic. I think this is one that we'll be watching for years to come. So I don't say that lightly, but I think it's just a masterpiece.
Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I have to agree. 5 stars for me. Can't remember the last time a film's had this kind of much impact on me and got me thinking about it so much afterwards. I've already planned to see it again a couple of times now with 2 sets of friends when it eventually comes out on the main screen. So yeah, I'm excited for this.
Brilliant. Well, it's 5s across the board because I'm going with you as well. I thought it was a ride. I thought it was a brilliant story. Some really great, important messages. Lots of humour, tons of gore. I felt empathy towards the characters. Some I hated, which I think is great because it makes you feel alive, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Inspired a reaction, which is what you want.
So that's a big 5 stars for The Substance. Let us know if you're going to see it. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Guys, thank you so much for coming last night, and thank you for taking the time out to review it as well. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us as well. We were good guests. It was
great.
Appreciated that. It was like the hottest ticket for us, so it was great. Good night out.
Brilliant. And
Absolutely.
if anyone wants to check out Nancy Boys, give us a plug of where people can find you.
Yeah, we are at Nancy Boys UK on Instagram. I believe the hashtag is Nancy Boys on YouTube. Just search me, you'll find me. And I do, horror reviews, horror film location tours, even the occasional non-horror related bit of content. So, come and find us on there.
Fabulous. Good to see you guys. Look after yourselves.
I'll see you. See you soon.
Brilliant.
Bye.